All right, guys, what's going on? So, go ahead and show you my dual battery, fully custom. I didn't buy no Quadratec mount or Smittybilt mount or anything like that. And I'm going to show you what I did for TJ, for you TJ guys, to get a dual battery set up. And I'll walk you through the steps real quick. So, initially, we had to get rid of the factory air box to create the space. I didn't like the fact that the dual battery pre-built mount puts both batteries on their side. One's lower than the other. I want to be able to service both of the batteries. So we'll get to that in a minute. So to get rid of the air box, I kept the factory pipe. I cut it, put an elbow on it. Had some, got some aluminum tubing, another elbow, like a 40, I think it's like a 40-degree angle. And then there's a filter underneath my wiper cowl. So cut the hole. Got the pipe to go through, put a little edge around that sharp edge there. Everything rides really good, works really well. A lot cooler intake temps. I've noticed the engine running a little bit cooler, especially at the highway speeds. It's not building all that heat under here. So it's getting a lot cooler air from the vent, and works pretty well. And I got stainless screws in here. Everything's really easy. Pop a couple screws out, pop the blades, and lift the cowl, and you can get to the filter. So that's that. Secondly, in order to do this, you have to do not a wire tuck, but the factory wiring is usually up underneath that lip all the way across. So you have to undo all the clips, all the factory zip ties, cut them if they're bad. You're going to be doing all your own zip tying. And you start from this corner. This section of the harness was up in here. Now, you see how low I've ran it, especially to gain the slack to go low enough to get the pipe to go across. I didn't want the wiring harness to going across the top. I wanted to be able to tuck it and get it a little cleaner under here too. So, get rid of your intake. Whether you do a snorkel somehow or you do what I did, get rid of your intake box if you want to do this. So then, once I cleared the space here, if you remember, fuse box on TJ's sits with the plug on the back side. See that section of wire loom? That's going to the back of the box. So this box sat like this, sat long ways in this area here. Obviously, needed room, unbolt it. I did a little bending on the bracket that's already bowed. I just kind of bent it a little more, and everything contoured really nice. See if I can get the back side of that. I think you can see it right down here, the other bolt. But that bolted up real nice. Stainless hardware. I'll explain the wing nuts here in a second. So that move this. Factory mount holds the first battery. Everything on the first battery is solely factory Jeep plugs and wiring. So mounting the second battery, now that we have the space, I went to O'Reilly's, got one of their plastic trays. Let me see if I can get this down here. Bear with me. I went and bought square tubing, and I made spacers, steel square tubing. Got that from Ace. It was pretty cheap. It was like $7 for a stick. I'll show you what that looks like. So just square tubing, right? Got a stick of it. Cut it to the lengths, prime it, paint it so it don't rust. And that mounted the tray. I grabbed the tray and try to shake the tray, and it moves the whole Jeep. So the tray was mounted really good, despite that it's plastic. I use fender washers to distribute the weight at the mounting points. Works great. Got the battery on there. Then it's, well, what are you going to use to mount the battery? Well, I went to the auto parts store. I bought a couple different battery mounts. None of them worked. So I had a piece of, let's see if I can get you, strong tie. So this is tie strap. Made the bends. I had some rubber, which I got this from Skycraft. You can probably get it anywhere. It's just repurposed tire. Makes really good, you know, it doesn't break down in the heat because it's actually, you'll repurposed tires off of your car. So I use that on the corners so I can keep the battery casing safe from the strap. And I bolted that side of the strap down flat, grade 8. And this stuff's rated, I forget what it's rated for, but good enough to hold the battery for sure. So I did that. Now if you see, I've got some slack underneath the other part of the strap, right? So until I come up with a better solution here, I wing nutted it, and those are locking wing nuts right there. And then the other one, as I tighten it down, it's pulling that gap tighter, 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 tighter. So it's like an adjustment for when I mount the battery. So the battery may look like it moves a little, but I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this. I'll try and keep this really still. The battery, man, you can't see it on film. Watch that lip of the inner fender in the alternator. I don't know if you can see it, but the inner fender, it's not very thick gauge steel. The inner fender gives a little bit. This battery is mounted and it's strong. So that's that. In case, for you guys that don't know dual battery setups, you need an isolator. Okay. So you need an isolator. And what that is 12 volt accessory. You want a 12 volt constant when the ignition is on, completely off when the ignition is off. Then you got your ground, and I'm not done yet. So you got your ground. Then you go from the first battery that gets its charge from the alternator. Now I have a 340 amp built alternator from a guy in DeLand. It's in a stock casing, but it's like the max output you can put in that case. You just need slightly above stock to be able to charge 2 batteries. Mine's a little overkill. So you go from this battery, bring you a lead to here, and then from that side you bring the lead over to the other positive, the second battery. We're running in a parallel series here, not series, excuse me. We're running parallel so that it stays 12 volt. If you run series and you run red, your positive to your ground and your other positive to the other ground, now you're in a 24 volt system, and that'll fry everything. This is all 12 volt. So parallel keeps it 12 volt. From there, wire up all your accessories. That's what all this is. I got everything labeled what it is. I'm gonna have to lengthen a couple things because everything was initially set up and wired on this Jeep, all the lights and everything on this battery. Now that I'm switching, I'm having to, you know, lengthen a couple wires, which is no big deal. I get to shorten my winch cables significantly, so that's pretty cool. Now 12 volt source, the closest 12 volt source is going to be, now this, you ain't going to have, I keep 2 amplifiers in my glove box for my sound system. So your radio, which is your second one up, you tap into that fuse because that's a 12 volt on, 12 volt off. So tapped into that, ran the wire through a grommet that is right there. This is for you TJ guys, remember. And then ran it up, and that's where we've got my 12 volt ignition. Now, to jump a fuse, instead of just shoving wire in there, I got these off of Amazon. These are pretty cool. So you plug this in, you fit your original and your new fuse, and now you have a lead. So I cut mine and I soldered everything. I don't like, I have, you know, butt connectors and stuff like that, but I prefer to solder. So that is a super custom 12 volt dual battery setup that I'm gonna hook up my fridge. I'm gonna hardwire a small inverter. You know, put all my accessories back on there, the winch, and yeah. So if you've watched this whole video, thanks for sticking with me, and that's how you do it, guys. That's definitely a custom way. I don't have a whole lot in this. You know, I got these batteries on a good discount. you can pick up these isolators fairly cheap. You don't want to go too cheap. You know, the custom intake, I bought a junkyard cold air intake off a car. Kind of used some stuff I had laying around. I don't know, I might have like 350, maybe 400 in the entire setup. Like I said, I got a really good discount on the batteries. So yours might be a little bit more, but people are spending over $1,000, $1,500 on dual battery setups, and it don't cost that much. So thanks for watching, you guys.